Hello, I'm Sharon Landon and your host for ITV Asia's Executive Women in China. Today we have with us Desiree Xu. Desiree is the VP, Vice President of Business Development for a leading foreign bank here in China. Desiree, thank you very much for joining us today.
You're very welcome. Pleasure.
And just a little bit about Desiree. She was born in Hangzhou, and then she spent some of her childhood here in Shanghai, and then of course her family moved to Hong Kong. And actually, with all those different places, even while you were young, you would speak quite a few languages, right? You have Shanghainese, you can speak Mandarin, you can speak Cantonese.
Yes.
Did I miss anything aside from English? Did I miss anything else?
I studied Japanese when I was in school,
Okay.
but that was a long time ago. And then I used to study in McGill, where they speak French, Montreal.
Right.
But I lost most of my French because I don't normally use them very often.
Right, that's very, very difficult for people that don't use. I myself took 5 years of French, but lost that along the way.
Yeah.
But as you mentioned, you were in Canada. You spent high school and you graduated
high school,
in
my graduate,
Right.
undergraduate.
undergraduate
in Canada.
business administration, I
Yes,
believe.
that's correct.
And then you also you went to Reading,
Yes,
England.
yes. That was a long distance study. So I got a diploma in surveying from University of Reading, England.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Very, very
that's
interesting.
in a nutshell.
Okay, well now I've talked a little bit about your background. Why don't you elaborate a little bit more on some of your career leading up to now, or whatever you would like to tell us.
Actually, I started at a recruitment agent because I went to, after graduate from school, the first thing I went to recruitment agent and say, well, do you have a job for me? This is my profile. And then they ended up hiring me as account executive there. So that was my first job. And afterwards, I have been working in property related companies. And then for some reasons and after the property development and investment and management companies, I was hired by a U.S. listed company to do business development. And then I got transferred from Hong Kong to Shanghai because obviously they think China is a big market and they need somebody who is local, quote unquote. I'm not really local, but at least I speak the language to open up the market in here. So that's why they transferred me. My previous company transferred me to Shanghai about 5 years ago. And then, in China, people are looking for talent. People are looking for people with international background, with different cultural backgrounds, so that to help them to further develop the business in China. So I get hired by another leading foreign company, the leading foreign bank in Shanghai. To be there, to join the HR department. My career is kind of like, it doesn't really have a focus. The only similar thing that I think about all my career is people facing, customer service oriented, business development, relationship building. And so after working 2 years in the leading foreign bank, my current bank, for 2 years in HR department, I got transferred to commercial banking. This is my current position. And again, in a nutshell, I have to face clients. The stuff that I do right now is quite special. Not all the bank have this function. I'm not a sales. I'm not a product expert. I'm not a customer service. So who am I? I actually responsible for identify and build relationship with our referral partners. We call them channels.
Okay.
So basically, we don't want to cold call people.
Right.
We wanted to find a business development structure whereby systematically through some channels, we can consistently being introduced to our prospect. And then through those channels, we can network with those prospects, introduce our product, and also learn and grow with those people. So I always said that I'm looking for influential faces, because in China, if you don't have relationship, just because your bank is a big big bank in the world is very well recognized, it doesn't mean that you can do business in here, because you
Right.
still need introduction from somebody else.
Right.
So I'm responsible for identify and build relationship with those influential faces, so that they can introduce business to us. They can help us to identify who are our prospect clients, because we can't target the whole market. We
Right.
just need to be very focused and specific in one particular area. Yeah, that's what I do. Looking for faces.
Okay, because I was going to ask you what your target group is, but they're just basically people that are very influential.
Commercial, yeah.
Both locally and internationally here, or actually just the local Chinese
All right, okay.
influential people?
It's a very interesting question, because when I first started this job, which is about 3-4 months ago, I was thinking, okay, my first of all, I have to understand what kind of customer my department is looking for. So there are two types of company. One is with foreign investment capital. The other one is established local companies. But the similar characteristic of these two type of segments, they have international trade. Because this is the strongest thing that we can support them as a foreign bank.
Right.
Okay. And then I think that at first I think that maybe there's a channel who helped me to focus on the foreign companies, and then there's another channel help me to focus on the PRC company. But now I find out, actually, the faces that I'm looking for, like the faces that I'm trying to develop a relationship is, they're Chinese. They've got nothing to do with foreign companies or anything like that, because I'm looking for relationship in the local market.
Right.
And there are people that in the local market, they can deal with both Chinese established company and foreign companies.
Right, such as yourself, somebody who's based here locally, working for a local company, but has a lot of exposure.
Yes. It's a very unique city. Yeah.
Well, you know, you were mentioning about your the background, or how you ended up really being a lot of customer-oriented, service-related.
Business development.
You know, I've always thought business development was quite an aggressive type of position. Do you feel, and you being a woman, do you feel that it's mainly been male-dominated, or do you feel that women, of course, are just as capable? I mean, we believe. What is the situation now, do you believe?
All right. Speaking from banking industry, from my observation, I find that most of my colleagues who are actually sales, like, because I'm responsible for looking for influential faces, so that they can introduce prospective customer to my sales team. So I'm an intermediate, and I find that all my sales team people, most of them are male, like for a banking industry.
Okay.
But I do know a lot of other female friends. They also had a title business development, but they work for other industry. I can't speak for other industry, but what I notice is the banking industry is quite male dominant in terms of business development sales. It seems that when we talk about money, you would like to talk to a man instead of a woman. I don't know, but maybe it's different.
That,
it's different somewhere else, but
in
China, I still find that it's a norm right now. I can't speak for other industry, but for banking, that's my observation as far as my bank is concerned.
Right. Oh, very interesting. All right. So you talked a little bit about your responsibilities and whatnot at the bank. Now you, for banking in China, I mean, it's just opened up not too long ago for foreign banks. Do you feel that certain foreign banks from certain countries would have more of a benefit or more of a ability to I mean, are there special what would you say, special things given to certain foreign banks compared to other foreign banks, or are they pretty much fairly on an equal playing field in regards to what they have to do?
Step back a little bit
Sure.
to compare foreign bank with local banks first. I think foreign bank is not compete directly with local banks, because local bank, for example, ICBC, they have 24,000 outlets. All foreign banks combined, they don't even reach 10% of that figure. So foreign bank cannot compete based on their physical outlet. They can only compete on their technology, security system, people, in terms of services. So one is system, one is people. I think that's the only thing that they can compare, like compete with local banks. Not in terms of physical outlet, but in terms of the soft thing, which is the system itself, people. So, for example, I can't speak for other foreign bank, but for the bank that I'm working at which is a leading foreign bank, we know that our position is outside of China, meaning that we help people to reach out to the world. If we compete with the local bank head to head in China, we have no position. When people said that, oh, we would like to visit your bank at where and where, you don't even have an outlet in there. How can you service them? And the other thing that I find out is for established local companies or for any local companies, they prefer to build relationship face-to-face, not through internet.
Absolutely.
So you need to have a presence around them, like 24 hours convenience store to service them. So if we compete on that level, then there will be another 100 years before we can reach the current status that the local companies are working on.
Right.
So I think really we compete is two things: IT, the internet platform, as well as the people, okay, and the system itself to coordinate all these things together. So I think this is something that foreign bank has advantage. I can't speak for other foreign banks, but from my personal observation, this is definitely our strength in comparison with other local banks.
Okay, so I guess my next question was going to be what you thought was actually the biggest challenge that a foreign bank has here in China. But I think you kind of touched on it a little bit. You can't really compete with the local banks because they're focusing on a lot of domestic and all the relationships that they've built before, domestic business. And whatnot, and so you guys are trying to do
the international ones.
Right.
Like we are trying to service company. They are facing the world. They are globalizing their company. They need partners to help them to reach out to the other part of the world, but not domestic.
And why would they choose your foreign bank rather than a lot of other foreign banks are now establishing themselves here in Shanghai as well as Europe?
Since I can't really speak the name of my company, but we are actually the biggest, one of the biggest in the world in terms of network, in terms of outlet. Just to give you a concept in comparison with local bank, I know that the biggest local bank, I'm not going to say the name of the bank, but in terms of their international exposure, they cover 30 countries and they have 500 outlets. But the largest foreign bank network, they have 85 countries, they have close to 10,000 outlets. So that's the comparison, okay?
Right,
Why a company would choose a foreign bank versus a local bank?
Exactly.
Again, the physical outlet and the physical appearances elsewhere apart from China.
Right.
That makes a difference.
Yeah, because nowadays too, there's a lot of local Chinese companies that are establishing themselves abroad, and they definitely would need to have access to all the banking facilities that's available, which would help them abroad. And sometimes, like you said, the local branches would not be.
Yeah. Going back a little bit, when you ask about like foreign bank versus local bank, I think the other major difference is local bank, they rely very much on people. If you speak to if you know so and so, you probably will have a loan facility, within 5 minutes or 10 minutes or whatever it is. But if that person took off and switched to another position, then you kind of sit in the middle. Oops, what I'm going to do? But as far as foreign bank is concerned, they do have consistent approach when it comes to giving loans and their internal system, their standard, their guideline, their corporate compliances, their risk management. So they have a consistent approach. So if a company, they wanted to develop themselves consistently, sustainably, they have to find a partner who is very stable in terms of the policy, their guidelines, their risk management, and their overall approach.
Right. Well, you're mentioning what a difference on foreign banks are, but that kind of applies also to other corporations, international corporations, in their working program or their systems. I mean, everything is just much more systemized.
Yes.
I guess you could say. I mean, there are relationships, but definitely not
Yes.
as how important it is in China or in Asia.
Precisely. And the other thing I find about the foreign corporation versus local corporation, they rely very much on one person.
Mm-hmm.
If the boss of the owner of the company, they left or they pass away or they disappear, then the whole company is kind of like, okay, what am I going to do?
Right.
But foreign companies is a bit different. They rely on the system itself.
Exactly.
Regardless who do you put in that position in the future, they still have a system to sustain the daily operation.
Right.
Yeah.
That's always been very interesting. Now, what another question I'd like to ask you then, probably one of the last couple of questions. You haven't been an executive woman in Hong Kong compared to working professionally here in Shanghai or Beijing. What do you see as the differences, or maybe the challenges or things that you've noticed in regards to your professional career or your job responsibilities or your ability to achieve what you need to get done?
I think one thing that now I'm so glad I have a chance to speak to the rest of the world like that. One thing is not about the environment, it's about the people itself. Mm-hmm. I can say that Beijing, Shanghai, Hong Kong, they all have their challenges. Mm-hmm. But it's just yourself. It matters. Your mind. Mm-hmm. What do you think about current situation? Whether you have positive thinking to deal with any challenges in front of you. I don't think that there's any difference in terms of working. Of course, in China, it's more complicated in a way that it has a lot of culture. Mm-hmm. It has a bit of everything. It's just like when you cook, you have a lot of tools. Mm-hmm. You have to be expert in chef to know exactly when to use what. But maybe in other location, in other kitchen, it's a lot simpler because you only have few to choose from. But in China, you've got lots. Because you got Thai style, you got Chinese style, you got French style, you got Italian style, you can all sorts of different styles that you can use from. So that means it really depends on you as a person. Do you want to learn to use different tools, or do you want to stick with your own way of doing things previously in the previous kitchen, elsewhere? But I can say that in China you can achieve more. Mm-hmm. You can definitely achieve more with all these different tools. It just depends on your mindset.
Very, very interesting analogy there that you gave us. Okay, one last question. For years, international businesses that have worked here in China have set up here in China, and there always a talk about localization in regards to having the local people take over management and running of the international companies here. Now, you, of course, are a very, very capable person, and you're very international as well, but generally, you were pretty much brought up in the local environment here in Hong Kong and whatnot. Where do you think, or what do you think about the localization term? Because it's been done before, and then people stepped back because it was too early, quite a few years ago, and now you hear it over and over again. Right. Do you think China or professional women, not even professional women, just is China up to having the localizations and put in place, and would the international companies be comfortable in having the localization with their organization here?
Again, I can't speak for other organizations, but my company is my bank, the current organization that I'm working at, is pretty much localized already. Mm-hmm. So. But from my own perspective, in terms of localization, I do question what are those, like, for example, if foreign company, they really want to localize their staff, what are they doing today to nurture these local people so that they can take up a leadership role in the future?
Relationships, again, back to that a little bit.
Relationship, but also a plan. Mm-hmm. First of all, you have to understand where they are right now. I think a lot of Chinese people, they're very capable, they're very smart people. They are very flexible.
Mm-hmm.
And since China just opening up has been 30 years. This is the 30th anniversary. But the thing is, like, the real open up, like,
Mm-hmm.
open up to the world is just last couple of 10, 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
I see the young generation also, the people around me who are local, they are very smart. I just had a meeting with a chairperson of a local established company. He has a mindset that he can do anything and everything.
Mm-hmm.
If he has to use, even though he's a local, but since he worked with a lot of foreign partners, he always have a mindset thinking that in China, the benefit is using different tools in the kitchen.
Right.
If the American way will help him to achieve the goal, he will use the American way.
Mm-hmm.
If Chinese way is better, he will use Chinese.
Right.
So they're already very smart.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as foreign companies are concerned, I do question whether they have a plan. They realize where they are in terms of the local staff. And if they really want them to be a future leader of the company, what they are doing right now to nurture that,
Right.
to educate them, to help them.
Mm-hmm.
They do have a very good attitude, and they are very intelligent people. But it's just a matter of how you're going to provide the support to them.
Right. Well, there you have it. There's a lot of hope, a lot of talent here in China. Desiree, great. Thank you very much for joining us again
You're very
today.
welcome.
And thank you for watching ITV Asia.
Thank you.